Hey there, it's Miriam with Engadget, and this here is the Samsung Galaxy Note. It's a phone with a 5-inch screen, or maybe a tablet, we're not quite sure, but nonetheless, I want to give you a quick walk around of the hardware and maybe some size comparison with other devices so you get a feel for how gigantic this device is. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I've been finding it very fun to use due to its display size. So it's powered by a Super AMOLED display from Samsung. It's an HD display, 1280 by 800, but it doesn't have the plus moniker. So it's not part of the plus nomenclature of Samsung, meaning it has a pentile display instead of an RGB layout. But look at this display. It's incredibly gorgeous. It has beautiful colors, of course, like most AMOLEDs. And it has incredible viewing angles, as you can see here. There's a skylight right above here, as you can see in the reflection, and it's still showing me some amazing performance here. Let me show you some black so you can see the contrast ratio on this. It's really quite incredible. So that's the display. Let me walk you through maybe some of the bits and pieces here. So you've got the usual layout for Galaxy S2 and Galaxy S devices in the global markets, with the home key being a physical key, and then the menu and back key being a backlit capacitive. And top here you have the Samsung logo and an earpiece, as you can see, and a front-facing camera, 2 megapixel. Some sensors, of course, for proximity and light, etc. The usual stuff. And then in the back here, you have the 8 megapixel autofocus camera. It's the same camera as we've seen on other Galaxy S2 devices and some non-Galaxy S2 devices like the Infuse and the Charge. It's a very good unit. Autofocus with an LED flash here to the right side of it. And then here on the bottom you've got the Samsung logo. You have a speaker here. And so the most intriguing part, as you notice in the back, is this little silver thing here. I'm going to pull on it, and as you can see, it's actually a stylus, which kind of brings us back to about 10 years ago. But what's cool about this is that it's actually basically a Wacom type digitizer pen, and it has a button on the tip and a button here on the side. I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but see if I can show it to you here a little bit better by maybe removing the phone from the equation. There it is. So there's a button on the side of the pen, and you can actually use this just as you would your fingers. For example, if you want to go into the app tray, you type on that, and then you can just... So of course there's some additional functionality around this pen that I'm going to walk you through in a separate video for the software, but digitizer built on top of the capacitive glass display, which is pretty cool. Let me walk you through the other four sides here. So you've got at the top the usual Samsung layout, basically a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. There's an extra microphone here, probably for stereo audio recording during videos. And then here on the left hand side you have the volume rocker, as you can see here. Nothing else until you reach the bottom. The bottom here you have the micro USB charge and data port. Of course you have another mic, and you have the stylus I just showed you. And then here on the left hand side, nothing until you reach the power lock key, which is pretty much a standard layout for a Galaxy type device from Samsung and the Galaxy S2 so far. Internally this phone has very similar specs to the Galaxy S2 device. It's running an Exynos processor. I'd have to double check the speed. I believe it's 1.2 gigahertz. It has 1 gig of RAM, and so this is pretty much what you'd expect for a Galaxy S2 class device. Even though the Galaxy Note is called the Note, it is a GS2 spec device. As you can see, it's very thin. It's actually not that much thicker than the Galaxy S2 itself, as I'll show you in a second. Pulling out the battery cover, just to show you what's under here. Same design as the Galaxy S2 battery cover. You pull it out by this little indent here. And so you've got a battery here. It's a 2500 milliamp hour battery. I'm not sure if you can see this in the video, but it's an insanely large battery. And then under here you've got serial number and stuff. You get a micro SD card slot. and you have a SIM here. I'm in the UK, so it's a Vodafone SIM in there. And I'm just going to put this back and close this up again so you can see it boot up. And then we'll go to some size comparisons for you guys. So it's the same kind of design as all the Galaxy S2s. You kind of have to push hard on all the corners to close the battery door. Alright, so here we go. I'll boot it up for you. And as you can see here, it says Galaxy Note GTN 7000, but under the battery here it says GTI 9220, which is the nomenclature, the serial number, whatever, the model number we were expecting when we were first hearing rumors about this device. So it's interesting, there's two model numbers apparently. Samsung logo here, little animation. And you can clearly see the capacitive buttons are backlit here. And here we're back at the lock screen. As you can see, this is a very quick boot time, pretty much typical of anything Exynos. I'm going to see if I can get you a bit of a close-up on the display. You can see the quality of it that way. And maybe a bit of a close-up on the back, so you can see this is a textured panel, very similar to the Galaxy S2 here. Maybe this will help you. If it focuses properly on maybe on my fingers, you can see the pattern, the texture. Alright, so let's do size comparisons. My battery is running a little low here. Battery life still a little undecided. We've really only had this device for a few hours, so we haven't really been able to compare it to other devices very much, but it's doing really well. I mean, we've been going crazy with it all afternoon. So this is a standard Galaxy S2, the European model here. 4.3-inch Super AMOLED Plus display. So that gives you an idea of the size difference. Not quite sure why the screen is so bright on this guy right now. Maybe it's not realizing that it's in bright light. But you can see the difference here, 5 inches versus 4.3 inches. Yeah, it's quite the size difference. It's interesting because I'll show you another phone in a second. That what is pretty much what I considered to be the biggest thing I'd want. And so it's a little challenging with the Note because it's really quite large and almost maybe too large. So anyway, this is what it looks like in the back. As you can see, it's kind of like the Galaxy S2 is like a baby Note, or the Note is a giant Galaxy S2. Slightly different layout with the pod here. The pod actually encompasses both on the Galaxy S2, both the flash and the camera, but here you can see it's a different designs, more like the old Galaxy S was. And then let's do thickness. I'm going to try to line up the edges so that it's fair comparison here. So we're going to be a little tricky. So basically here I have a view of the edge, and I'm not sure if it's focused properly, but you can see the thickness difference is not very significant. These are very, very similar in thickness. So that's with the Galaxy S2. Now let's pick the next gigantic phone, the Titan. So this here, HTC Titan. And as you can see, the Titan is big and it's hard, it's dwarfed by the Galaxy Note in here. So this has a 4.7 inch 800 by 480 LCD display. It's a good LCD though, but as you can see, this is an insane size difference right here. The Titan until now was pretty much like what I consider to be the biggest thing I want to carry around. So this is really quite gigantic. It does fit in my pockets all right, but it's pretty uncanny. So that's the those two, and then let's maybe compare the back so you have a feel for that. Also an 8 megapixel camera with dual LED flash. It's actually a pretty decent camera on the Titan. And then let's do the edge thing, try to line their edges up so you can actually have a fair comparison. The Titan is about 9 point something millimeters, so you can see it's actually a little thicker than the Note, but not by much. Not sure if you can see that in the video. Now I want to show you another phone. It's kind of a well-known entity really. It's the the Nexus S. So here's the Nexus S, and look at how tiny this looks in comparison. Here, let's bring up the app tray for both of them. This is the the Nexus S. The Nexus S looks like half the size of this incredible Galaxy Note. And they're very similar displays because they're both Penta, but different resolutions, of course. In the back, they look like this. You can see that the Note is gigantic. I know I keep saying that, but it's really quite amazingly big, but yet not too big. You can actually put it in your pocket. And here's lining up the edges here. Here's the Nexus S versus the Galaxy Note. You can see my fingers behind the Nexus because of its curved glass. Another point of comparison is the iPhone 4. This is not a 4S, but it's a 4. So here we have IPS panel versus Super AMOLED, pentile versus non-pentile, very high resolution, 960 by 640 versus 1280 by 800 here. Again, the Note literally dwarfs the iPhone 4. This is what they look like on the back. And then finally the thickness. The iPhone looks pretty much porky. Well, not really, but I mean it doesn't look quite as thin as we'd expect, because the Note is a very, very thin device. So this is what it looks like here. And then lastly, just because I have it here, it wouldn't be unfair to not show it to you guys, is the Nokia N9, the MeeGo phone. I'm here in London for Nokia World, so it's only fair that I would show you this. I'm trying to find the power button here. So this is both are AMOLED pentile, not Super AMOLED, but basically this is clear black, this is Super AMOLED. Similar technology where there's very little distance between the glass and the actual matrix of OLEDs, and it makes for displays where really things just float, as you can see, literally over the screen. And let's have a look at the back. Both have 8 megapixel autofocus cameras. This is a Carl Zeiss lens with a dual LED flash. And then the thickness, the N9 is actually a 12 point something millimeter phone, and it doesn't look too thick because it's got a lot of convex shapes and it's shaped such that it looks thin, but you can see the Note is thinner. So that's basically it, the quick walk around the hardware of the Galaxy Note from Samsung here in the UK. Cheers.